can't just see something that's maybe a once-in-a-century discovery. Go look for fur or footprints or some kind of evidence.
Just a few moments ago, a shocking story came up again about a woman who had a scary encounter with Bigfoot. They met a creepy Sasquatch in the forest, a story captured in a spooky poem called The Forest that my great-uncle knew by heart. He described hidden, mysterious creatures like Bigfoot who live in the dark woods. What if there's even scarier stuff in these stories, especially about the woman's terrible experience with Bigfoot? Let's uncover the deep, dark secrets behind these eerie tales. The Sasquatch Encounter. This is a story about a man and his wife who had a chilling encounter with a Sasquatch, something that nearly cost them their lives. This tale comes from my great-uncle and aunt, who both passed away last year. They always wanted to share what happened, but never got around to it. So I've decided to tell their story, making sure it's not lost to time. As the dense fog rolled over the quiet mountain pass, where they had made their final camp, an eerie silence enveloped everything, the kind that presses down, heavy with foreboding. In her early years, a little girl would listen intently as her great-uncle recited a poem known as The Forest. The details of the poem are hazy in her memory, but the essence remains clear. It began with the existence of creatures in the woods, entities not found in textbooks, yet as tangible as anything known to man. The poem spoke of beings, large and small, adhering to their own laws of nature. They were referred to by various names: Sasquatch, Bigfoot, or simply the boogeyman. To her great-uncle, these labels were interchangeable. To him, all these creatures were real and sovereigns of the woodland. Visitors to their domain were advised to tread with respect. As a child, she doubted these tales, but as time passed, she came to understand a profound truth. These beings were permanent residents of the forest. They decided to camp in the Appalachian Mountains in northern Georgia, a remote area just outside of Atlanta. The place was wild, barely marked by a dirt road and some abandoned railroad tracks. My uncle was a photography enthusiast, and he couldn't wait to use his new color camera to capture the beauty of the forest during autumn. On their way to the mountain, they stopped by a little store. The owner gave them directions and added a serious warning. There had been sightings of Bigfoot nearby. They laughed it off, but kept the warning in the back of their minds as they headed into the woods. When they reached their campsite, the scenery was breathtaking. The untouched forest stretched out in every direction, and my uncle was in awe of the old rusty tracks weaving through the colorful fall leaves. He set off, snapping photo after photo, while his wife stayed behind to set up the tent. She teased him, saying he was obsessed with his new camera. "Don't forget about dinner," she reminded him, promising to have burgers ready by the time he came back. He kept wandering, too focused on capturing the perfect shot to notice how time passed. As he crouched by the old tracks, taking photos, he suddenly heard his wife's voice calling for him. Her tone was sweet but firm, like she was trying to pull him away from his camera obsession. He glanced at his watch. It was only 1:30 in the afternoon. He thought he had plenty of time and brushed off her call. But then her voice changed. It grew sharp and urgent, almost like she was scared. "Get back here now!" Startled, he stood up and looked around, feeling uneasy. Something didn't feel right. He couldn't see her anywhere, and the woods were silent, as if the trees themselves were holding their breath. When he hurried back to the campsite, his wife was sitting calmly by the tent, sipping iced tea and reading a book. She looked up at him with a puzzled expression. "Why do you look so spooked?" she asked. My uncle stared at her, confused. "Weren't you just calling me? What happened?" The trees seemed to whisper as they ventured deeper into the forest. A forest's unseen guardians. That moment hit them both hard. They felt something strange had just happened, like the forest itself had been toying with them. They couldn't explain it, but an eerie tension settled between them. It was as if something invisible had been watching, waiting for them to understand that they didn't belong in this place. And from that day on, they would never forget the unspoken rule of the forest. You might not see what's out there, but it sees you. That night, just as the sky grew dark, the same rattling sound returned. It was louder this time, like something heavy was rolling closer along the old train tracks. Then out of the fog, an old wooden cart appeared. It looked ancient, its wooden planks cracked and worn. But it moved all on its own, coming to a stop a few steps away from their camp, as if waiting for them. His chest tightened with fear. "We need to get out of here," he whispered, reaching for his wife's arm. But her curiosity only grew. "It's just an old cart, Steve. Maybe it belongs to a spirit," she said, stepping closer to it. "We can't leave without knowing more." His gut told him this was a bad idea, but he followed her, not wanting to leave her alone. She leaned forward and called into the mist. "Hello? Are you a friendly ghost?" she asked softly. The cart creaked as if answering her, shifting slightly on the tracks. He knelt down and peered underneath the cart. His heart raced as he saw a shadow, something moving beneath it, trying to stay hidden. "There's something under there. We need to go right now." But his wife, still caught up in her excitement, didn't seem to hear the fear in his voice. "If you're there, can you give us a sign?" she asked. And unfortunately, the spirit, or whatever it was, gave her one. Without warning, a long, hairy arm shot out from under the cart. It grabbed her arm with a grip too strong for her to break free. She gasped in shock, struggling to pull away. "Steve!" she cried out in panic. But this wasn't the end of it. As he lunged forward to help, rocks began flying through the air, hurled by the creature hiding beneath the cart. One rock hit his side, making him stumble. Another hit him square in the chest, knocking the breath out of him. The creature moved quickly, its dark figure barely visible in the swirling fog. His mind raced, remembering something the locals had warned them about. A strange creature that haunted these woods, something that sounded like an old legend. He hadn't believed the stories about a Sasquatch before, but now it seemed terrifyingly real. He gritted his teeth, trying to reach Cynthia, who was still struggling against the creature's grip. Another rock struck him, this time on his shoulder, making him stagger. Cynthia's scream cut through the air as the creature dragged her closer into the mist. And things only got worse. Before he could react, the creature's powerful arm yanked Cynthia into the shadows beneath the cart. She disappeared in an instant. The strange events in the forest made them question what was real. Cynthia's dark ride into the unknown. Desperately, he tried to follow, but a sharp blow to his head sent him crashing to the ground. His vision blurred as pain shot through his skull. He reached out toward where Cynthia had been, but darkness overtook him before he could do anything more. The last sound he heard was the old cart groaning and rolling deeper into the fog, taking Cynthia with it. Cynthia felt the world spinning after the creature's powerful blow to her head. Dazed and unable to react, she was quickly caught by another Sasquatch before she could even try to run. The creature held her firmly, making escape impossible. Soon she found herself on a strange cart, far too advanced for any normal animal to operate. The cart rumbled along a track, carrying her farther away, leaving her with no way to fight back. After a while, he was the first to wake up, though his head ached badly, and his thoughts were jumbled. His heart sank as he realized Cynthia was nowhere in sight. Panic hit him hard, and without wasting a second, he rushed to his truck and sped down the dirt track. But after some time, the road became too rough for the truck to go any further. Desperately, he jumped out and ran along the path on foot, calling Cynthia's name over and over. Yet the only response he got was the distant hoot of an owl under the soft glow of the moonlight. Meanwhile, Cynthia woke up again to the frightening sight of the massive Sasquatch standing over her. Her heart raced with fear, and everything around her felt like a bad dream. Before she could figure out what to do, darkness crept in again, and she fainted. The next time she opened her eyes, she was still on the moving cart, tied down and helpless. The cart rattled further along the track, carrying her far away from the safety of their camp. Cynthia's mind raced, trying to make sense of what was happening. As fear gripped her, memories of her Cherokee grandmother's old stories returned. Cynthia had grown up hearing tales about the wild men of the woods, creatures that her grandmother warned about but also respected. These were not just bedtime stories. They felt real now, haunting her with every jolt of the cart. One story her grandmother had shared was about a young Cherokee woman who saved an English captain by talking to the Sasquatches in their own way, seeking peace. Cynthia knew a few Cherokee words from her grandmother, but fear clouded her thoughts, making it hard to remember them. But that wasn't the worst part. As the cart continued, Cynthia noticed other carts passing by, some filled with apples, others piled with animal skins. It looked like the creatures had their own system for moving goods, far away from the eyes of humans. Soon the cart came to a stop at a makeshift depot, nothing more than a cluster of rocks and wood. The Sasquatches untied her and dragged her up a steep hill toward their camp, moving as if her weight was nothing. She tried to resist, but their grip was too strong, and they carried her with ease to a place perched high on a cliff, hidden deep in the forest. In the heart of the forest, hidden dangers awaited them, the unseen perils at camp. At the camp, things only got worse. The creatures tied her to a tree, and a group of younger Sasquatches began gathering around, their hungry eyes locked on her. They started building a fire in the center of the camp, their low growls mixing with the crackling sound of wood. Her heart pounded as she realized what they were planning. She wasn't just a prisoner. She was their next meal. The younger creatures drooled in excitement, inching closer as they prepared herbs around the fire. She felt hopeless, knowing that Steve was miles away, hurt or worse. But then she remembered a small part of the old story, her grandmother's words for stop and peace. Clinging to that memory, she took a deep breath and shouted with all her strength, "Halda Nad Hayata." The creatures froze, blinking in confusion, their hunger suddenly replaced by uncertainty. Before she could even catch her breath, an elderly Sasquatch stepped forward from the shadows. Her long white hair shimmered under the moonlight, and her presence was enough to make the younger ones back away in shame. The elder gave a gentle but stern command, and the others untied her, hanging their heads like children caught misbehaving. She stood there trembling, unsure what the elder would do next. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, a serene yet profound encounter unfolded in the heart of the ancient forest. The elder Sasquatch extended a gesture of understanding toward the young woman, connecting with her through a mystical, telepathic bond that transcended spoken language. This connection, both serene and venerable, allowed the elder to convey a message of sympathy and inquiry directly into her consciousness. The young woman, overwhelmed yet grateful, shared her distress over being separated from Steve. Her plea was heartfelt, urging the elder to assist in reuniting her with her companion. They walked carefully to the edge of the cliff, where an old platform made from vines waited for them. The platform swayed a little in the breeze, showing its age. It had been used many times over the years, and the creaking sounds felt like whispers from those who had traveled this path before. The elder, an older woman with hands marked by years of work, stepped onto it slowly. She moved carefully, not only because of her age, but because she understood the importance of patience. She knew the platform could be tricky if not treated with care. Behind her, the younger ones followed with quicker steps, their movements light and easy. As the platform descended into the dense forest, the sound of leaves whispering in the gentle breeze was unmistakable. The elder, with a soft and reflective tone, shared her thoughts on the changing times. Climbing used to be easier, she noted. Over the years, she felt the difference, not just in her physical strength, but also in the forest's character. Her straightforward observation resonated with the younger listeners. They realized she was not merely reminiscing about past climbs, but reflecting on the inevitable transformations brought by time. The elder's insights, steeped in years of experience, highlighted the natural progression of life in the environment. Her audience absorbed her words, recognizing the deeper implications about adaptation and change. As dawn broke, they found a ray of hope in the dark woods. Testing limits. The forest had a way of testing everyone who entered it, and they knew that this was just the beginning. They still had a full day ahead of them, and the path through the trees would require even more care. When they finally stepped off the platform, the first light of dawn began to spread across the sky. The soft pink glow stretched over the treetops, making the forest look peaceful for now. It was cooler on the ground, with the air still carrying the chill from the night before. They paused for a moment, taking in the stillness, knowing that moments like this didn't last long. But the real challenge lay deeper inside the forest. They had made it down the cliff, but the trail ahead would demand both strength and patience. As they stood together, the elder took a deep breath, ready to continue. The younger ones looked to her for guidance, knowing that this journey was not just about reaching a destination, but also about learning along the way. But Steve's troubles weren't over. They found him lying unconscious near the tracks, barely alive after his long struggle. She rushed to his side, tears welling in her eyes as the elder knelt beside him and began her work. Using herbs and soft chants, the elder fanned Steve with a branch, whispering words that felt ancient and powerful. For what felt like forever, she waited, holding her breath, hoping he would wake up. After 10 long minutes, Steve stirred and opened his eyes, dazed but alive. Relief washed over her as she helped him sit up. Together with the elder, they lifted Steve into the same cart they had used to climb down the cliff. The elder, though clearly tired, helped them move along the track toward their truck. As they reached the vehicle, the elder paused and turned to her, sharing one last message through their strange mental connection. "Your great-grandmother says hello, but the surprises weren't over yet." The elder revealed she was 189 years old, a living witness to generations of stories and events. She felt humbled, knowing her family's stories were more real than she had ever imagined. She promised herself to carry those stories forward, to honor the legacy her grandmother had left behind. With Steve still weak, the elder urged them to get medical help quickly. As they drove back to safety, she couldn't help but reflect on the night's events. What had started as a terrifying encounter had become something far more meaningful, a connection to the past and a lesson about fear, courage, and understanding. Steve, too, was changed by what had happened. He kept the warning note they had found, framing it as a reminder of the dangers that lay hidden in the world. Though her great-aunt and uncle were no longer around to tell their stories, she knew they would be proud. Now she had her own story to add, a story of survival, connection, and the strange but powerful wisdom of the wild. What if the dangers we fear are merely lessons in disguise? Comment, like, and subscribe to explore more stories of mystery and survival.